Hello and welcome to our 50-minute stretch for the hips. We're just going to warm them up a little bit first by coming into this 90-90 position. We'll have our hands clasped, arms out in front of us for balance, and then we're just going to sit tall, lift the knees and drop them down to the other side. So you can do this with the breath, breathing in as you sit tall, lift the knees, breathing out as you drop the knees down to the floor. Breathing in, transition, breathing out to drop into your pose. You'll find yourself moving around, maybe even leaving your mats. Let's take one more in breath to move one more time. One more out breath to drop into it. Excellent. Now we're going to come to quite a strong stretch. This is where you might need your blankets, cushions, that sort of thing. We're going to take the left leg back, the right knee forward, stretch that left leg back as much as you can. Relaxed foot at the back. And then we're going to open up this lower leg. Bring the lower leg out from under. And this is where you don't want to be sort of leaning to the side. You really want to feel the stretch by dropping your hips facing forward to the top of the mat, dropping this right hip down into the mat. So it's fine if it's hanging in midair, but if you feel that's too much stress for your body, then you can prop that hip up. And you might just want to stay here for your 5 breaths, because I can really feel it already, the stretch in my right hip. The more the lower leg comes out, the more you'll want to sort of roll to the side. So it's a competition between bringing that lower leg out a little bit more, but not letting your hips roll to the side, hip bones facing forward. And you might want to come down here, or even here. We're just going to stay in whatever position you've chosen for around 5-ish breaths. In this position and there's too much stress on your knee. Stay in it if you're fine, but if not, piriformis stretch. Very similar stretch, different position, not so much pressure on the knee. So by all means, take this, often called figure 4 stretch, instead, if you're feeling it's just too much. So let's take one final in breath. One final out breath. If you're in pigeon pose, you're now going to be very slowly pushing your hands into the floor, walking back up, coming back up, until you can bring that lower leg and tuck it back in and slide the back leg forward. And then we'll take all that on the other side. So your right leg extended back, your left knee sliding forward, top of the foot to the floor at the back. This is left hip is stretching now. You're bringing out that lower leg as much as you can. Maybe having a prop of a blanket or something under your hip, or just anywhere that helps you feel a little bit more supported. By all means, just stay here, ahead, hands to the floor, or start to fall down a little bit deeper. And even if you found this perfectly fine the first side, again, you might prefer to take the piriformis straight, so that there's not so much pressure on your knee. So we're breathing, following each breath right to the end. A feeling of sinking down into the pose every time you breathe out. Let's make this our final in-breath here. Final out-breath, so you can drop your weight into the mat a little bit more. Next in-breath, nice and slowly if you're in pigeon, walking your hands back towards you to come up. Sucking that lower leg in, sliding the back leg forward. Maybe just coming, just sit with your legs out in front, giving them a shake before we go on to dragon stretch. So dragon stretch. We're now going to, again, you might need padding for your knee. All these things I forget to mention at the beginning of the class, but you can always press pause. Take your right foot forward, left knee is padded. So again, we pad that back knee just so we don't have any pain, unnecessary pain coming from that knee, kneecap pressing into the mat. Both hands is the inside of this front right knee now. And this is dragon pose, and we really want to just be dropping body weight down to the mat, which might just be hands hanging heavy head. After a while, after a few breaths, you might find your body opening a bit and you can drop down to that forearm of the outer arm, or maybe even both forearms, but don't try and do that if it's just not ready, if you're not ready for it yet. Just feel a weighted hanging down to the mat. Again, using your breath, focusing on the breath, especially when you find stretches like this are quite intense. Then just focusing on your breath can help you. You can get rid of those nagging voices that are telling you that you need to come out. You need to come out immediately. So whether you're on your hands or whether you're on your forearm, we're just going to do some little twists before we come out of here. So left hand down to the floor, or if you're down on your right forearm and you want to do it from right forearm, you can. We're going to breathe in to prepare, and then on an out breath, lift that right arm and look up to the ceiling, and on an in breath, come back down. Breathing out, twist. Breathing in to come back down. Breathing out to twist. In breath brings you back down. Of course, you might be on your hand, you might not be down on the forearm, that's perfectly fine. In breath, out breath, sorry, to twist. In breath, coming back down. Final one, twisting on the out breath. Returning on the in breath. And very slowly coming back out of that pose. Sliding the foot back. Coming off your knee pad if you had one. And we'll set ourselves up for the other side. Back knee padded, left foot forward. So stretching this back knee back as much as you can take that stretch. Both hands to the inside of this front foot. Maybe just dropping your head. One side might feel completely different to the other, that's absolutely fine. That back foot, you can relax the foot to the floor or have it tucked, whichever feels best in your back leg. Maybe you're coming down to forearm, maybe you're just staying on your hand. But if you can, for these few breaths we have here before we start twisting, just feel the body weight dropping down with every out breath. And then let's take our twists, either from the forearm or the hand. So take an in-breath to prepare, an out-breath to lift the arm into a twist. An in-breath to come back down. Out-breath to twist. In-breath back down. Out-breath to twist. In-breath coming back down. Maybe you're on your hand doing the same. Out-breath to twist. In-breath to come back down. Final twist on the out-breath. In-breath back down. So it's nice and slowly now coming back to kneeling. And let's find something to prop up our sitting bones to come and sit a little bit more comfortably. Maybe a cushion, a block, a blanket, so that you can come to cobbler's pose like so. Hug your toes, sit nice and tall. The prop underneath your sitting bones just helps your lower spine to be nice and upright rather than sagging back. So we're going to take a lovely butterfly, a few butterflies here. So as you breathe in and sit tall and hug your toes, squeeze those thighs, those butterfly wings in towards your arms. And as you breathe out, let those knees release back down to the mat. As you breathe in, you're contracting those inner thigh muscles. The more you squeeze, the more they contract. As you breathe out, those same muscles are softening, opening and releasing. In breath to squeeze, contract, lengthening the spine. Out breath. On your out breath, think of those inner thigh muscles as lengthening, elongating, rather than thinking of pushing your knees down to the mat. Just think of a lovely elongation. In breath, squeeze. Out breath, release. Final squeeze on the in breath. Final release on the out breath. Whew. Extend those legs, give them a shake. And now probably one of the strongest hip stretches of all, Gomukhasan. We're not going to do whole pose, which we've done this with our arms in shoulder stretches, but we're just going to focus on the hips today. Now it's much easier for me if I have something propping my lower spine up, propping my sitting bones. So what we're going to do is cross your right leg over your left, and then bring the legs back. Now you might need to sit forward a little bit because you really want your knee over knee, and then your blanket is coming under your sitting bones behind you to make that pose a little bit more accessible and comfortable. Now if this is just really too much, then you can extend that lower leg and just do one side at a time. The This is pretty intense anyway, but this is, you're taking one hip stretch at a time, and we're going to do both sides. So by all means take that if sitting in full Gomukhasana is going to be too much. Wherever you are, let's take our 5 breaths. Think of every in-breath as reminding you to sit tall, to lengthen the spine, creating space as you fill the lungs. Think of every out-breath, a little lift of pelvic floor, a little core engagement just to protect the lower spine, but mainly that feeling of softening, releasing, letting go. Let's make this our final in-breath. And then nice and gently lift your knees, unfold your legs, give those legs a shake along the mat, give the knees a rub behind and on top if they feel they need it. And we'll do Gomukhasana the other side, so it'll be left leg over. So if you're keeping your leg straight, right leg straight this time, left knee on top of knee. If you're happy to come into the full pose, believe me, if you've tried this pose and you think, no I can't, try propping up, because it makes it much more accessible for me to prop up those sitting bones. And then we'll take our breaths, breathing in to lengthen. Breathing out, feel that softening and releasing. So if you do find these, just keep breathing as I talk. If you do find these stretches quite intense, you know you need more work on this area of the body, then you can sit and watch a little bit of television to help your body open in these areas that are getting a little tight in. Lifting knees, extending legs. Still on our prop, we'll do one final twist each side. So keep that right leg extended, left leg comes over. Hug that left knee with your right arm. Sit tall, left hand is behind you. Sit tall as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, take a twist back to look over or beyond that left shoulder. Take another in breath, sit nice and tall here. And then on your out breath, slowly coming round to face forwards. Releasing, extending legs, right leg steps over. Left leg wraps, hugs that knee in. Breathe in, sit tall. Breathing out. making that twist. Look over the back shoulder. In breath, sit tall. And out breath. Coming all the way back round to face forward. Extend legs, give them a shake. Thank you very much for joining me for 15 minutes of hip stretch.